Hey guys, welcome to my channel. How's it going? I hope you're all doing really well. Today is a video I've been trying to film for like 5 weeks, and it is my birth story. Now this has been a very requested video. Please excuse, my printer is just shitting itself over here. Yeah, this has been very requested. The baby is just there, asleep on the bed. I'll introduce you to him in a minute. He's 7 weeks old today. If it's your first time here, I'm Lucy. Hi, how's it going? I have two little girls who are 4 and 5. They've just had their birthdays. It's so weird not saying 3 and 4, but they're 4 and 5. And then I have a little boy just here who is 7 weeks old today. And yeah, so this is my birth story. Basically, he was born at 38 weeks and 1 day. Now before that, for like 2 weeks before, I was in and out of hospital constantly because I was having really bad Braxton Hicks and tightenings, and because both my girls were born by C-section, the hospital basically said, as soon as you feel like you are having some doodads, give us a ring, come in. So I kept going in and they were like, oh yeah, you're having contractions, but you're not dilating. Now this is something that I knew was going to happen because with my first, I was having contractions for about a week and just wasn't dilating, and then they broke my waters. It got to 10 centimeters. She got stuck and distressed, and it was an emergency section. And then my second, she was booked for an elective. However, when my labour started, the same thing again. Went in, yes, you're having contractions, but you're not dilating. After a week, I got to 4 centimeters, and they did a sort of semi-emergency C-section for my second. So I kind of knew I wasn't going to dilate. So yeah, this started at like 36 weeks until 38 weeks, just continuously. I must have been in hospital like 6 times over that period. The doctors ideally wanted me to stay in hospital to be monitored. That was what they really wanted me to do, but it wasn't practical because I've got 2 kids to look after who needed to go to and from school. So we and I obviously had to look after them and just be at home with them. Ben couldn't waste his paternity, so I kept coming home. And then on the 26th of August, on excuse me, bank holiday Monday, I was like, you know what, I'm not doing anything to bring on labour. Before that, I've been bouncing on a ball, I've been eating pineapple, had spicy stuff, gone for long walks. Like, me and my friends were trudging around the fields near where I live. And on the bank holiday Monday, I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm not doing anything. We're just going to have a nice day. It was boiling hot. We spent it in the garden. The kids had the paddling pool out. We had a really big play mat out and just spent the whole day doing nothing. We had a dirty Greggs for lunch. If you're not from the UK, you won't know what a Greggs is, but it's just like a bakery, but not like a fancy bakery, like a greasy bakery. We had dirty Greggs for lunch, and then we had donuts. And I made non-alcoholic shandy and lime, and it was just lush, and we just did nothing all day. And then got to about 5 o'clock, cooked the kids tea, cooked me and Ben some massive burritos, did chili halloumi and spicy black bean burritos, and they were amazing. Ate them, and then we sort of sat on the sofa after dinner, and I heard this noise, and it was like a click, and then I got this really sharp stabbing pain, and it actually made me shout out. And Ben was like, what's up? And I was like, oh, it's gone. But it's just a really sharp pain, just literally just like that. And I heard a noise and I was like, that's weird. And anyway, he said, right, I'm gonna go and give the girls a bath. And so he took the girls upstairs, and I heard him get them in the bath, and I was like, oh, I feel like I need a wee. And I stood up and I was like, oh, and I felt a gush. I was like, am I pissing my pants? Am I weeing myself? Took another couple of steps and was like, oh, I think this might be my waters. My waters had never gone before, so I'd had no idea what to expect. And I sort of did a couple of steps, and I was like, yeah, this definitely isn't wee. This is full on just gushing like Niagara Falls. It was ridiculous. So I shouted up to Ben, and I was like, oh, I think that pop might have been my waters going. And he was like, oh my God. So he sort of like, I could hear him starting trying to get the girls out of the bath. And at this point I was like, oh, shit. Our childcare is Ben's parents, and Ben's parents were at that precise moment on an aeroplane back from their holiday, coming into Stansted Airport to land, which is about 2.5 hours away from where we live. And I was like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? So I went to the toilet, just put a pad on, and I realised that my waters were meconium stained, which means the baby had done a poo inside me. So I rang delivery suite and they said, yeah, you need to come up now because there's more risks. If the baby's done a poo, there's more risks. So I rang my best friend, and she only lives down the road, and she was very excited, and she came over to watch the girls and put them to bed for us, and we said goodbye to the girls and said, we'll see you tomorrow and you'll have a baby brother. And so we started to drive to the hospital, and all this time I was ringing Ben's parents, hoping that they'd landed. And I went on Skyscanner, and their plane was currently taxiing onto the runway at Stansted. So I rang his sister, explained what happened, and said, get your mum to get to our house as soon as she can. So we got to the hospital, and as we pulled into the hospital, my contractions started to hurt. Like, they'd been painful before, just like, oh, that's not very nice, but these were painful, like sore, and were making me stop. And Ben's dad rang me and said, right mate, I've got your message, we're on our way. So we kind of like, that was a weight off, that we knew childcare was coming that could stay the night, so we didn't have to worry. And yeah, we started to walk to delivery suite, and I kept having to stop every couple of minutes because of the contractions. They were really painful at this point. We went straight in, went to the desk, and they took us straight into a room, and I got introduced to a midwife called Sam, who was amazing, and she sort of had a look at my pad and was like, yeah, the baby has definitely done a poo, we'll get the doctors to come in. So the doctors came in and said, because I'd only just eaten, they ideally wanted to wait 6 hours after I'd eaten before performing a C-section, because you're normally meant to starve yourself for 12 hours before, or 8 hours before. And we were like, okay, that's cool, that's fine, don't worry. And they sort of said, we'll aim to do it about midnight. And at this point, they sort of said, do you want some paracetamol? And I said, yes, please, because it was starting to really hurt, but I could still talk through them. It was just making me go like, oh, this is not nice at all. I have got some footage of me having a contraction that I will put in a little while. It did make both of my best friends cry when they watched it, because they didn't like seeing me in pain. So you might want to, and when I put it in, I'll just say, and then you might want to skip it. And then, yeah, got to sort of about 7:30, so we've been there about an hour, and they were still just chatting away. Sam was really nice. They put a cannula in my wrist down here, which was horrible. And they were still aiming for a midnight delivery, but they kept saying, if it carries on like this and there's an emergency, you will be bumped back, so it could have been in the morning. So we were like, yeah, that's fine. However, about 8 o'clock, my contractions were coming every 2 minutes and lasting for a minute, and they were painful. And Ben asked Sam if I could have some gas and air, and she said yes, and I was very happy because I love gas and air. It's amazing. I had a lot of it with my first labour because that went on for a long time. Didn't have any with my second because that was just straight into a C-section. But yeah, I had my gas and air, and it was awesome. And I'm going to put in the footage now of me having the contraction, and we'll come back after. Okay, so you've probably just seen me having a contraction, and yeah, they were coming every 2 minutes, lasting for a minute, and they were fucking painful. Sam checked me again, and I was only 3 centimeters, so it was just very slow, same as what we expected. It got to about 9 o'clock and a consultant came in and said, yeah, we're aiming for midnight, and they put me in a gown. And then I think about 9:30, 9:45, more people started to come in, and I didn't really think anything of it at the time, but I got introduced to an anaesthetist, a theatre nurse, another midwife, the surgeon, and I kind of just thought this was just protocol of telling me who was going to be there later on. I was like, this is cool. Hi, how is everybody doing in between the contractions? And then Sam came in and chucked some scrubs at Ben and said, put the daddy scrubs on. So Ben put his scrubs on and his little hat on. And then at about 10 o'clock, the room kind of filled up and they were like, we're going now. And we were like, what? And oh, I didn't realise, but the baby had, every time I was having a contraction, the baby's heart rate was dropping. So it was now classed as a category 2 emergency. The first category 1 emergency is like immediate danger of death to mum and baby. And then category 2, I think, is potential danger to mum and baby. So it was we sort of went down and went into theatre. All this time I'm having my contractions, I've got my gas and air, but they had to disconnect it to take me down to theatre, which I was not happy about. Got me in, got me on the bed, and got introduced to the anaesthetist, and it was an all woman team apart from the anaesthetist called Eric, who was a little cute little guy. He was really nice, but everyone else was a woman, which was amazing. And they sat me on the bed, and when you have a spinal in your back, you have to hunch your back, put your head on your throat, relax your shoulders. It's very difficult to do with a big belly. And then I was having contractions, and they gave me more gas and air, and they started to put a heart monitor on my finger. That was just a protocol. And they put one on and they said, oh, that one's broken. And so they put another one on and they said that one was broken, and then they put another one on and they realized that my heart was actually going 241 beats per minute. And the monitor was saying extreme tachycardia, and it was flashing red, and the midwives and everyone was just quite worried, and obviously this made me panic, which doesn't help your heart go any slower when you're panicking, when everyone around you is kind of like, the midwife said, your heart rate is making me anxious, which in hindsight she shouldn't have said that to me because it just made me worse. It turns out I was actually having an SVT, which is a supraventricular tachycardia. I'll talk about that more in another video, but yeah, so that was what was happening. It did come down. They got the spinal in and they laid me down on the bed. Ben was next to me. They have an ice cube on a stick and they test where you can feel. They put it up on your arm, show you how cold it is, and then they run it from your toes and they ask you where you can feel it, and I couldn't feel it till about here, so I was completely numb. The screen went up. I had my phone with my music on. Let me just check the time because I've got to go and pick up Aria in a bit. We're fine. Yeah, had my music on and my playlist, and the screen was up, chatting to lady here, midwife. Ben was here, and with both the C-sections with the girls, it was quite rough. Like the table moved a lot and I could feel a lot of like movement, whereas this time it just felt like someone was stroking my stomach really lightly. It was really calm and really nice, and we were just chatting, me and Ben and the anaesthetist lady here, we were just all chatting, and then all of a sudden we heard a cry and we were all just like, what? And they dropped the screen and they lifted him up. I don't know why I'm crying, he's fine. And he didn't stop screaming, it was amazing. It was the nicest noise. And then they we couldn't do the prolonged cord clamping or anything, because of the fact he pooed and it was an emergency, so they cut the cord. They said he actually grabbed one of the instruments that the surgeon would hold him. I'll put in some pictures of the surgeon holding him up because we got the most amazing photographs. And then they weighed him and he was fine. He was £8.2, which was huge because my previous little girl had been £5.9. Ben held him. I forgot to say, during while they were cutting me open, my cannula failed on this side. They had to put another one in this side, which meant I couldn't hold the baby. So Ben was holding him and showing him to me, and they were sewing me up. And at this point, I just felt really abandoned. When I'd had my previous sections, there was always someone here talking to me, telling me what was happening, and there was no one. And they took like an hour and 15 minutes to sew me up because I'd had a lot of scar tissue previously. And I started to go in and out of consciousness. And it was just a horrible, horrible feeling. But they sewed me up and they wheeled us to recovery. In recovery they put on an ECG because they wanted to see why my heart had done what it did. So they put that on me. They're trying to take this cannula out and they've got the baby on this boob trying to get him to feed. And at this time I'm saying, I'm going to be sick. And they're saying, you can't be sick, you've had 3 lots of anti-sickness medication. And I was going, I feel sick. So baby's here, heart thing's here, taking the cannula out, and I was like, get me a bowl. They put a bowl here, and then I proceeded to throw up all of my black bean burritos, which apparently put both the midwives off ever eating black beans again. But I've had them since, and they were fine. As soon as I was sick, I was okay. And then he fed. They took the cannula out so I could have a proper cuddle of him. And the heart thing didn't show anything. It was absolutely fine again. And then, yeah, we went to the labour ward. I spiked a fever, very, very low one, but they meant we had to stay in for a couple of days and have lots of antibiotics. But yeah, that was the birth of my little man. Sorry I cried, I'm such a wiener. But yeah, I'll show you. This is Fox. He's a sleepy sausage. Yeah, he's 7 weeks today. We had him weighed last week and he was £10.5. So he is a little chunky monkey. His name is Fox Gunner Enzo Pert, and he is fucking delicious. I just love him so much. He's got a crispy head at the minute because he's got cradle cap. But yeah, this is him. He says hi everybody. He says thank you to everyone who sent him a present because it's just amazing. You lot are just incredible. And I'm sorry it's taken me 7 weeks to do this video. But he is he's got a bit of reflux, so he's not always very settled, but we're starting, touch wood, to come through, which is why I was able to actually put him down and film. So yeah, this is him, and he is amazing, and he is just mostly cheeks. But yeah, I'm gonna go and pick up his sister from school. If you like these videos, please do give this one a big thumbs up. You should definitely subscribe to my channel for more fun stuff to come.